The United States has announced more than $630 million in aid for Yemen, Somalia, South Sudan and Nigeria. The UN reports conflicts in the four nations have contributed to what it is calling the world's largest humanitarian crisis in more than 70 years. US humanitarian assistance to the four countries is now at more than $1.8 billion this fiscal year. Yemen has the world's largest cholera outbreak, while half of drought-hit Somalia's 12 million people population need aid. South Sudan's civil war and Nigeria's Boko Haram insurgency have contributed to severe hunger in those regions. A Conservative MP has been suspended from the party after it emerged that she used a racist expression during a public discussion about Brexit. Anne-Marie Morris, the MP for Newton Abbot, used the phrase at an event in London to describe the prospect of the UK leaving the EU without a deal. In a statement, she said the comment was, quote, totally unintentional, before going on to apologise unreservedly for any offence caused. Prime Minister Theresa May announced her suspension on Monday, stating that she was shocked by the completely unacceptable language. Han Yoon-min is well on his way to becoming Korea's first Afro-descent supermodel. The 15-year-old high school student has walked in the Seoul Fashion Week 3 times since he was discovered playing video games at an internet cafe. Han, whose father is Nigerian and whose mother is Korean, was born and raised in Korea, and he only speaks Korean. But despite only knowing a little bit about his Nigerian culture, he says Koreans tend to take him as a foreigner, which can be frustrating.
When I first saw him, I didn't know he could speak Korean because he was black. I approached him, talked to him in English because I wanted to take a photo. But then I was surprised because he could speak good Korean.
At first, I didn't like people's stares. I wanted to look ordinary and didn't want to stand out. But after starting work as a model, I have come to enjoy the attention, built up a lot of confidence and overcome a lot of my troubles. As for now, I don't want to do anything else other than modeling. Whenever I have a photo shoot, I always do my best as if it was my last.
Falling crime rates in the Netherlands has left many of the country's prisons empty. Now, more than 24 of them have been repurposed with some really interesting uses. Let's take a look in this next report.
A deafening silence. Breda prison is empty of inmates, like so many others in the Netherlands. Crime is in free fall around the country. Over the last 10 years, the number of prisoners dropped 20%, forcing the closure of 27 institutions.
There are less criminals in prisons because Dutch judges have started to sentence people in different ways. Not more lightly, but differently, with community service or ankle bracelets and clinics.
Local authorities have come up with new ways of using the prison. Now, part of this protected national monument, built in 1886, is home to about 90 entrepreneurs like Miguel.
Yeah, every time when you step in the big dome or the women's access, it's pretty dark. Yeah, that's true. It has a lot of history and sometimes you can feel it as well. It is a nice atmosphere and a lot of dark things have happened here and you can feel that, but it doesn't affect us in our work whatsoever.
But tonight, the prison's metal doors will clank shut once more. 350 volunteers will be locked in, taking part in a life-size prison escape game with over 80 actors.
What we try to do is recreate the traditional prison movies like Shawshank Redemption, Escape from Alcatraz in real life by using authentic prison, a lot of actors, a lot of players and a lot of props and some special effects.
These prisoners will have 10 possible routes to freedom before leaving the cells in silence once more, at least until the next time.
Now, the playground game of tag, or catch if you're from this side of the pond, is going for the big time. Known officially as the World Chase Tag, the game is a combination of the traditional game and the urban sport of parkour. One of the first international competitions was held recently in London. Let's take a look.
You get 20 seconds, and there's one simple rule: don't get caught. Chase tag is like the traditional playground game, but taken to extremes and with added obstacles. The two players can go anywhere within the closed arena. If the target player is caught, it's game over, and a new player comes on to chase the one who caught them. This new version of one of the world's oldest games was created in the UK 2 years ago by Christian DeVoe, who is looking for something fun to do with his son.
We decided to introduce obstacles into the garden, like we had a bin and some chairs and a bench and stuff like that. So you can, and then the obstacles just grew and grew and grew more complicated.
The sport is already going international under the brand World Chase Tag. Valentin is part of Blacklist, a French team that's the first to take part from outside the UK. He honed his skills practicing parkour, the sport of running and jumping through urban environments. Chase tag is similar, but it's the added competitive element that attracted him.
When you're being chased, you have to make the chaser believe you're going one way and then you go another. You also have to keep track of where they are. Whenever you go anywhere, you've got to know what they're doing. So you have to be super aware of your environment.
Meeting in London for just the second official competition for this new sport, 6 teams of 4 players are facing off against each other. To win, they simply have to make more catches than their opponents. Blacklist didn't make the final, but they're glad to have experienced chase tag.
We were really interested, of course, and you could say it appealed to our childish side. Playing tag is a game that everyone knows how to play, and now it's a game that's been taken to a more athletic level.
While the game is in its infancy, its creators are already thinking big. There's been interest from as far afield as the US, Taiwan and China in holding future competitions.
And finally, a tiny settlement northwest of Ivory Coast capital Abidjan has unveiled a memorial stone at a site of a former slave route. Our next report uncovers the significance of this to the local community. Let's take a look.
Around 60 miles north of today's commercial capital Abidjan on the coast, the hamlet of Kanga Nyanze, which is absent from many maps of Ivory Coast, attracted many government officials, scholars and stars to take part in a slave route ceremony. A memorial stone was inaugurated in the small village, whose name derives from the purification of slaves, and was once a transit point for captives from the north and east being force-marched to the Gulf of Guinea. During the ceremony, numerous Ivorian hosts were joined by the likes of Benin's former president, Nicéphore Soglo, historian Elikio Bokolo from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and France's former football hero, Lilian Thuram.
Mes ancêtres sont sûrement passés par là, c'est-à-dire que...
For sure, my ancestors came this way. That is to say, maybe not in Ivory Coast, but you know, all West Indians who have my skin colour know, or should know at any rate, that their ancestors were, above all, African men and women who were enslaved in the West Indies.
The 1998 World Cup winner, who has been an anti-racism activist since hanging up his boots, gave the local shaman an egg by way of an offering. After chanting for a while and a symbolic washing of hands, the Ivorian medicine man gave his visitor a small pebble and a branch of peace, then daubed a circle of fine white clay on his forehead. Kanga Nyanze is now among significant spots in the Slave Route project, launched by UNESCO in 1994, which aims to turn silence about slavery into study, identifying and preserving data, and contributing to a shared culture of peace.
After 4 centuries of trafficking, that is to say of deportation, which emptied the continent of 100 million men, women and children, we are still alive.
A small delegation of Afro-Americans attended the ceremony, who learned that their ancestors came from Ivory Coast through DNA testing.
It feels like an honor. After all these generations and after all these centuries, our blood, our spirits are still connected, and we're honoring that today.
The ceremony of purification practiced at Kanga Nyanze is still shrouded in mystery, but it does shine a light on the dark history that deserves its place in the present.
Now, before we go, a reminder of tonight's top stories. 4 people have died as a result of clashes between forces loyal to Libya's unity government and rival fighters. The 44th session of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation concludes in Ivory Coast. And scientists believe they have discovered a vaccine that can protect against gonorrhea for the first time. Well, that's all from the Evening News team and I Tonight. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with all the latest from the continent and beyond. We'll see you then. Goodbye.